Once again, America's collective consciousness is shaken by madmen armed with semi-automatic rifles and evil intent. In the wake of the mass shootings in El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio, comes a wave of sadness, anger, and frustration that we can't stop this madness. As if there is an easy answer, and there is not. There is a renewed call for a ban on military-style rifles, the weapon of choice for many of the mass murderers. Even the conservative New York Post called for a ban on its cover. I will pause here now for an admission that I am not a gun owner, nor am I a fan of guns. As a reporter, I have covered far too many stories of children riddled with bullets in the cities that I've worked in, New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago. But I respect the Constitution, and the Supreme Court decision that affirms the Second Amendment gives individuals the right to bear arms for self-defense. However, the ruling in the District of Columbia versus Heller allows the government to have a say in what guns you own, and that was made clear by the writer of the decision, the lion of conservative jurisprudence, the late Antonin Scalia.
Read the opinion in Heller. It did not purport to say everybody can carry whatever weapons he wants. It's clear that certain restrictions on the bearing of arms are traditional and can be enforced.
So even Antonin Scalia was in support of gun control. And since there are other guns that can be used for self-defense and for hunting, it is difficult to justify allowing people to own semi-automatic rifles just so they can look cool, just so they can pretend they're Rambo. Still, you will hear several vociferous and consistent arguments against the ban. And in doing research for this commentary, I found that some are valid, some are not. For instance, gun advocates will argue that the original intent of the Constitution was to allow the citizenry to have sufficient weaponry in case it needs to defend itself against its own government should it turn tyrannical. Maybe that was the original intent, and maybe at one time that was true. But the government now has things like fighter jets, tanks, and missiles. It stopped becoming a fair fight long ago. You will also hear that many of the worst mass murders were carried out with handguns, and that is absolutely true. For instance, the gunman who killed 23 in Virginia Tech in 2007 used a semi-automatic pistol. Plus, there is chilling evidence that if someone is intent on carnage, they can use a car, a truck, a bomb, or a plane. Finally, you will hear that we did have an assault weapons ban in place in this country from 1994 to 2004, and it had little effect. And that is also true. The Columbine massacre was in 1999 using the exact same type of weapon that was supposedly banned. You see, one of the problems with the rhetoric about a ban on military-style weapons is that sales of those weapons historically skyrocket. When you even mention a ban, people stockpile those weapons. So I am not personally or vehemently against a ban in the type of weapon that was used in El Paso and Dayton, Parkland, or Las Vegas. But it does feel like a placebo, something to make us feel better, something to make us feel like we're doing something, anything to stop the problem, when in fact we're not. And statistics support that assertion. We average over 36,000 gun deaths in this country. 22,000 of them are suicides. Of the nearly 13,000 murders where a weapon can be identified, over 80% of them are caused by handguns. Less than 1% of the gun deaths in this country are caused by mass shootings. Less than 1%. One of the problems is the national and the local media have stopped covering most gun violence, and then they overcover mass shootings. And we, understandably, have an emotional reaction that we want to do something to fix what in reality is a small part of a much bigger problem. I started writing this commentary with the earnest intent to support a ban on military-style rifles as a real solution to the problem, but it just isn't. And my fear is passing such a ban would give us false comfort and make us complacent to some other solutions that could really work. In my next commentary, we'll look at some of those solutions. I'm Larry Mendte. We'll talk then.